Welcome to the Nick and Matt Show. Bringing the player interviews you want to hear and the hot topics you want to discuss. Streaming live on the Foundation Podcast YouTube channel, here's Nick and Matt.
What is going on, everybody? Episode 36, and I don't think Nick's studio setting has ever looked so good, even here in Massachusetts.
I think in studio in Massachusetts, it's hard to beat, but now down here in Virginia, we are making it work, and we finally got the good quality that we've been promising over the last month.
Yeah, so our audio listeners are like, hey, the quality of the sound, well, actually, the quality of the sound has gone up too. So if you,
I would hope so. It's a nice microphone.
Yeah, so that's excellent. I've upgraded my microphone for any audio nerds out there. It's a Shure SM7B, and Nick, I think you're using like Audio Tech something or other. It's a good one.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
It's a good one as well.
It's Audio Technica.
There you go.
That's what it is.
Reading and talking at the same time. Okay,
Yeah.
Awesome. So, Nick, so you're not on the road anymore. You've been watching disc golf from the couch like everybody else.
Yeah, it was kind of nice. I played a tournament on Saturday, but yeah, Sunday I got to watch live disc golf, and that was pretty sweet.
Yeah, that's awesome. So let's just before we get into like the show, this is like the pre-show show, is can I just talk a little bit about the struggles of doing disc golf podcast with live interviews? Nick, how hard is it, and we don't need to throw names out there, but how hard is it to go from a tournament win on Sunday evening to lining up guests, professional athletes for a live show on Monday nights? Like, what's your experience?
It's hit or miss. I mean, every single pro is different. Every single pro has stuff going on. Monday is pretty hard in the sense of, for a lot of people, it's a good travel day. So a lot of people are traveling to the next tournament. And that was one of the biggest kind of like things, switching from the Thursday night podcast and the Monday night podcast, was getting on those key players that we wanted to. But so far we've been making it work. It is sometimes a struggle, but it's happening.
Yeah. I just feel like it's, hey, what did I do? Hold on a second. Here we go. Sorry, guys. I do too much at once. I'm thinking about hiring a producer here in the future, make my life easier to focus.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just one of those things. I've been doing it for a long time with kids disc golf when I was doing that, like lining up pros, and they're not bad people. But the topic here I'm trying to make is that they're professional athletes and they're not managers. And I think every pro athlete should get a manager that we can just reach out to, like, yes or no, does this person want to be live on show interview, like Good Morning America or whatever, and they can say yes or no.
Well, I mean, I think we were talking about it a little bit, but a lot of other professional sports, actually, the players kind of have to do the media press and everything like that. We're not obviously forcing people to come onto the podcast.
Oh yes,
but eventually
we're forcing.
I think that is something that, I think eventually manufacturers will want their players to get on more of these social media outlets for the publicity of themselves and the company.
Yeah, so that's not a woe is us. I think I'm not trying to say, oh, poor us. I'm just saying, like, we're doing the best we can to line up shows. And tonight we have the highest rated disc golfer in the world, Ricky Wysocki. I always laugh because I think is his first name actually Richard? Do you know?
Yeah.
Okay. So like, you ever see that YouTube video?
Sure it is.
That YouTube video.
Yeah.
WTF, Richard. So I always think it's funny, Richard. I want to be like, what's up, Richard? So he's going to be on the show. We've got Casey White. Now, you may know Casey White because you've heard his name on live coverage a few times this past weekend. Or you've seen him on a Simon Lizotte vlog. And then finally wrapping it up, Heather Young. Those are our three guest lineups tonight. And I think they're all going to bring something super interesting. I think they're all interesting interviews. Nick, I'm
excited for it.
Is there anybody, and I'm setting you up here, is there anybody that you think would have been a great interview tonight that we weren't able to get?
Well, obviously, there was an amazing battle in both sides of the fields, MPO and FPO. Heather Young put a strong push towards Katrina Allen at the end. It would have been awesome to hear both Katrina's and Heather's thoughts on that tournament tonight. And then same thing with Ricky and Paul, hearing their thoughts on competing back to those two. Honestly, I think the cast that we got going on, though, is pretty awesome.
I agree. I'm trying to figure out too. This is funny. Are you and I like professional podcasters? The answer is technically yes. But did we come from a... Yeah, I mean, technically we're making money off of podcasting. We don't need to disclose our deals, but...
We don't tell people that. I'm just kidding.
Isn't that what it is to be a pro? So I guess what I'm saying is,
golf, yeah.
But we are not formally trained. And some people are like, yes, Matt, we know. But one of the things I'm trying to do, and it's probably not, it's going to be a failed effort, is slow down the pace just a little bit. So let's see here. We're at 7:07 if you're listening live. We're getting ready to bring Ricky into the green room. Nick, you were interested in the stats from this weekend. You had a question for me off air, but maybe you want to ask me, and I will try to give you what I'm thinking, and then you can kind of correct me.
I can do that. So let's talk about, so there was like a 6 or 7-way tie for 6th place, something like that. I think 7-way tie for 6th place. Anywho, so the top 12 players in the MPO division, how many total bogeys during the last round do you think there were between those top 12 players?
Okay. The top 12 finishers, is that what you're saying?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So...
And if you think about it,
well, we know Casey was in there. We know Ricky was in there. Paul was in there. Calvin, etc.
So there was technically 216 holes played. Every player played 18 holes, obviously. So out of 216 holes,
okay,
how many bogeys were had?
I'm just gonna guess that there's gonna be in the top 12. Each person is gonna average 3. That's gonna be my guess. I'm just gonna guess that. I'm gonna say 36. That's kind of my thought process there.
36. You would be way off.
Whoa, really?
You lost this game. Yeah, there was only 8 total bogeys. The last round. 8 total bogeys between the top 12 players in the last round. There was no double bogeys between those players, and there wasn't much scoring separation.
Wow.
Throughout the last round. Yeah.
Wow. So
really only 1 stroke, maybe a 2-stroke swing here and there, but mostly only a 1-stroke swing.
Tell me your thought process on you texted me earlier this week and you said, Matt, we're going to have to talk about par. Tell me a little bit what you think about that, because I'm getting ready to bring Ricky in and I need a little filler space.
So I mean, my thought towards it was a couple of the holes, I thought the par was a little, I think those eagleable holes, I think players were eagling them sometimes with ease. There was a couple albatrosses out in the course on hole 13. If you got a perfect drive on it, which I know was hard to do, it looked like a super wooded hole, but it didn't look like a good hole. So I think a couple of the pars and everything like that, I think were a little soft, but that's kind of my thought towards it. There wasn't really too much scoring separation on those. Even that hole 13 in the final round, both Ricky and Paul, I think Ricky had a shorter putt than Paul did, but they both made relatively easy threes in a sense. So I think the course in itself was a little soft for the top professionals of our sport, but at the same time, you know, they did play very well. You can't take that away from them.
Yeah. So that is tremendous. So Nick, you did great with the filler there. We got Ricky Wysocki in the green room, and we're not going to waste his time. So let's go ahead and bring him on the show. And there he is, Ricky Wysocki,
up,
live.
How's it going, guys?
Yeah, awesome. Hey, we were asking right before we brought you on, and this was not one of our planned questions, but is your first name Richard?
Yeah, my real name's Richard, but nobody calls me that. Yeah.
We were laughing about the YouTube video. You seen that one? WTF, Richard? So
yeah. Oh, yeah. The Tosh video.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're really excited to have you on the show, and we've got questions that I think your fans, our fans, everybody would probably like to know. I just want to start out by saying congratulations on the win. Obviously, you averaged 1,079 golf. And that's above your player rating, which you're the highest rated player in the world now. I'm going to keep the accolades coming. Shooting 16 under par, okay, with Paul McBeth starting out the final round in the lead. Okay, so you had to shoot 16 under par, but Paul was in the lead. How does your mindset differ going up against McBeth when he has a small lead in a final round versus anyone else? So you're going into it, Macbeth's got the lead. What's your mindset compared to maybe another tournament? Is it different?
I mean, it's not really different. I mean, in my eyes, he's a great competitor, and we've obviously had a ton of great battles, but you still have to play out the tournament. And one stroke is like that's basically nothing at our level. One stroke is like 3, 4, 5 strokes. Like that's when it starts really making a difference as far as really being able to change your game plan. If it's only one stroke, you can't really change your game plan. You got to be aggressive at our level. When it's just me versus him, we're going to be getting tons of birdies. We're going to be throwing great shots, and we're going to be really pressing. And so I knew that coming in, that one stroke really wasn't going to make a difference until obviously later into the round. But yeah, no, it's awesome. I think for us as players to be both playing at the high levels that we know we can and should be playing at, and it's awesome for us. It's awesome for the spectator. I think it's a great storyline for the sport, and I think it's just a true sign that if we're both playing at the high level, it's great for us as competitors. We play better, thriving off each other's competition and the energy that we bring to the course, and it's great energy for the spectators. So it's awesome for everyone involved, and it's great to be a part of it.
Absolutely. So playing Bell, and I was kind of alluding on this just a little bit before you got on the show, but it seemed to be a birdie fest out there. And so kind of my questions are, how hard was it shooting 16 down the final round? And do you think you could shoot 18 down at that course if you had more tries at it, even during a cash round? Do you think you could shoot 18 down there?
Yeah, 100% for sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean the course it's a great course. The pars may be a little off, I would say. But just as far as the holes and the design and everything, the shots you have to throw, it's a great course. It's so I think that the pars I think are a little bit soft. I think I heard you saying that right when I was tuning in. And that's definitely true. I think it is. The pars are soft. There's the par 5 is realistically more of like a par 4, and then the hole 8 is more of like I would say it's more of just for the top players. It's more of like just a really challenging par 3, and so that being said, there are some par issues I think with the course. Just I wouldn't even call it design because the design of the holes are great, and so I think that you can definitely take that away from this week. Is that I think that we may potentially see this as an Elite Series event in the future. I haven't talked to Jeff about it for sure, but I talked to him a little bit about the details, and he said it's potentially could happen. We've got like Portland Open and we got Beaver State playing. Those are 2 events that could potentially be in the same area of the country and both be Elite Series events. And you got Waco and potentially the Belton, the Open this week. And those could be 2 potential events that are real close to each other and be Elite Series events. So the course is Elite Series quality. I think after this year, we can go ahead and probably just take out hole 13. I think it's just a crapshoot hole that shouldn't be there. Doesn't fit the course, doesn't fit the par, doesn't fit anything, doesn't fit the flow of the course. So nothing really fits. I think they found that out the hard way with all the backups and all the so all the stuff that went along with it. I don't want to harp on it too much, but yeah, it just wasn't a great hole in any circumstance. But overall, as far as the course goes, it's semi-challenging. I mean, obviously we shredded it, but we shredded it and we separated ourselves. So there was some holes out there that had some teeth, and with the wind and the OB came into play a little bit. And you obviously saw me and Paul avoid that pretty well and score well. But yeah, I was really pumped with the course. I think it was an awesome layout.
And changing the pars obviously is pretty easily. I mean, you can look back at 2019 Waco when Paul shot the 18 down. In 2020, they had changed those par 4s 9 and 18, or excuse me, 9, 18 and 12, and they made them all. They were par 5s, and then now they are par 4s. So I think changing pars is pretty easy. And if the pros are thinking that the course quality is good enough to be an Elite Series event, I think that's something that you obviously have to take into consideration. But definitely take out 13. That looked like, I mean, I kept seeing Instagram posts of, 4-card backups on that hole. Like that's just wild. But
yeah. Oh no, totally. It was wild. But yeah, I think that, like you said, with Waco this year, the scoring to par wasn't as good as it was in years past, and that's just because they kind of updated with the times or whatever you want to call it, because they saw that kind of what happened in the past. And there's nothing wrong with shooting 18 under, but at the same time, you want to make the pars out there hard, and sometimes shooting 10, 12 under is a solid round. Some courses and some the way the pars laid out, some courses 10 or 12 unders is just as good as maybe an 18 under, like at Belton or like Fountain Hills or something like that.
Yep.
Yeah, so we were actually doing a little comparison. This was a 3-round event. You finished 43 under par. Like Memorial Fountain Hills, 4-round event typically at Memorial, and they're shooting about 40. So obviously the par is different, but we've had a whole discussion on what does par actually matter? Is it a perception thing? So that's a whole nother conversation because you're going to shoot the same way, most likely, whether the par has changed or not. But you did something a minute ago that I've done like all weekend. I called it the Belton at the Open or something. And like, it's so hard for me to be like, it's the Open at Belton.
Yeah, okay, I did the same thing.
Oh yeah.
That's funny.
It's one of those, it's like, what is it? The Open, it's everything's like MVP Open or whatever. But anyways.
Yeah.
To take it to this place, you alluded to this a minute ago. You thought it was like a great storyline for people. Paul McBeth, Ricky Wysocki. I've been watching the sport for 14 years. I've seen it happen numerous times. Paul McBeth made what I would consider a classy post, as well as you, a social media post, both of you acknowledging, and I think you used similar wording, which I found interesting, as it was a chapter, another chapter in the Wysocki McBeth saga or whatever. And touching on that, this rivalry, do you view this as a rivalry? And then if so, like, how do you personally view the rivalry? Like, what is the mindset in your head? Are you guys dueling enemies or a great competitor? Like, what is your view of this rivalry?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that's, it's a deep rooted rivalry. I mean, it's like some sports you have these, players that will be rivals for a couple years here and there. For me and Paul, it's been what since, we used to tour together back in the day in like 2011, 2012. And then once we kind of got super competitive, it kind of seemed like it was kind of like we couldn't really be too close of friends because we were like so competitive and so such rivals that kind of like, traveling the same van or same spot every week, staying in the same hotels, like kind of wasn't really like, it's kind of a little bit weird. So it kind of got to that point, and then like you just 2012 all the way till up till still now. I mean, we're battling at each other's throats, week in and week out, and so it's been it's been just a strict rivalry, and it's just something where I want to beat him so bad, he wants to beat me so bad, and most of the times that's what it is. It's obviously we're trying to beat the field, but most of the time it ends up turning into me versus Paul battles. As much as the field hates that, that's just what it turns into. Because like this week, same thing. You kind of saw the writing on the wall after round 2. We were separated by 6 or 7 strokes, and when me or Paul are 1 stroke off the lead, and vice versa, and we're 6 strokes away from third. Good luck catching us. So it's something to where it's just the energy between us is just something that like we thrive off of it just as players. With you can feel it when there's galleries there, when there's spectators there, they thrive off of it. And so it's just a culmination of rivalry between the fans, the spectators. Someone's rooting for Paul, someone's rooting for me, and their buddies are rival fans because they want Paul to win versus me to win, or whatever. And so I think it's just a culmination of everything coming together. Just the way the sport's growing too. I think it's great for the sport. It's great for his brand. Obviously, it's great for my brand. So I think it's great for everybody involved. And I think that it's just awesome to be a part of it, and it's been a long time coming. I don't think, this week was a true test to show everybody that if he's playing at a high level and I'm playing at the highest level that I can, we're gonna be right there. It doesn't matter who's playing the tournament, and it doesn't matter what tournament it is. We're gonna treat it like the Worlds.
Can I follow up on that a little bit? You mentioned the fans and the idea of a show, and on the course, I know there's still regulation. Restricting, fans, if you will, the amount of fans. And is that something, I think it's not a dumb question, but to say, is that something you're missing? Because I'm assuming it is, but how do you think that would have changed the feeling during that round to have, let's say, 200 or 300 people following? Like, what do you think's missing there? And what do you think you would have experienced differently than you did without them?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we both feed off of the competition, the adrenaline, the pressure, the way we handle it, and we both do such a good job mentally handling that and harnessing that into something positive. And I think that's what separates us in the long run when we come down the stretch of tournaments is that we thrive off of that, and that's something that a lot of people they try to do, and it's something I had to work a long time to get to the point where I'm at right now, to where once I get under the nerves, I get under the pressure, then you really start harnessing it and actually letting it motivate you instead of letting the nerves attack you and start doing weird things you don't normally do, which it does to a lot of people, and it does to us too. It's not like, I do certain things when I'm under a lot of pressure sometimes that I don't normally do. So I'm not perfect. But the crowd actually, it adds a little bit more pressure, adds a little bit more of the nervy factor because you got all these people watching. And at the same time, I think we just put so much pressure on ourselves. It doesn't matter that if there's, 10,000 spectators there or, 50 or 100, we just want to win so bad that it's more of like, we just put the pressure on ourselves. So it doesn't matter how many spectators are there putting the pressure on us and watching us, that it's just like, it's going to be the same feeling as if there's 2 versus, thousands.
Do you know how bad I wish I could compete at the highest level? I would love to have that feeling. Good job for you guys. All right, Nick, what do you got?
Yeah.
One of the craziest things, and we've talked about this a lot in weeks past, is it's kind of hard to tell. Like, everyone always does predictions on who's going to win the tournament. And this year, I don't think I've had a correct prediction because it's been so wild. And even in the sense of podium finishes, and I think this is your first podium finish of the year so far. Like, is this something that we can expect more throughout the year of, look, at this point, there's so many great competitors that it could be anybody's weekend? Or do you feel like you're finally getting into the groove of things of, you're going to see your name at the top more and more?
Yeah, I mean, I think, just personally speaking, my game wasn't where I wanted it to be in Vegas and Waco, so to say. And I really clicked some things with my swing, some things with my putt, just that little bit extra consistency and confidence. And that equates to a lot of strokes for me. And I really feel like I've clicked. And there's a lot of players right now that are playing solid, a lot of young kids coming up. But I think that at the same time, it's still the tough thing to explain to people is that if Paul's playing at the best of his ability or I'm playing at the best of my ability, it still doesn't, it doesn't happen every week. And that's why it may seem like, if his game's a little off or my game's a little off, there's going to be other people, and that's just going to happen. That's the nature of sports. You're not going to be perfect every week, but yeah, I think that there's definitely potential. I mean, I think it's a foregone conclusion that these battles are going to happen a lot more coming in the future. But it's good to see that there's a lot of, like, Calvin's playing solid right now. He's super consistent.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's been playing. He's got a top 5 finish I think every tournament so far. Which, with the way that the competition is right now, that's really solid. I think that there's going to be a lot more weight as far as points and all this stuff with top 5 finishes. I mean, and like you said, there's a lot of people that are good and a lot of people playing at a high level right now. And so that means a lot.
So
yeah, absolutely.
You had me thinking about how exciting it was to watch all this competition. I'm just getting all like amped right now. Like the way you probably feel like going to watch NFL or NBA. Like, I'm starting to feel that with you guys. Like, where I'm like, I want to see more of that. And for instance, like, I don't know, I think you like golf and like stick and ball, whatever you want to call it. Did you ever watch the match, between what's his name? Tiger and Phil Mickelson. Yeah. So you can tell I'm not that into golf. Yeah, but Tiger and Phil mic'd up, like, that was good stuff, man. Do you ever foresee something like that happening? If we could get a big enough prize on the line for you guys or something, like, that would be cool.
Yeah, no, I think it would be really cool. I think that it would be something to where, give the fans kind of insight as to, like, what we're thinking. Maybe, if we're little snippets of us talking through different scenarios, different situations when, like you said, if there's a lot of money on the line or whatever the situation may be, I think that would be awesome for sure. I mean, I think that I'd be totally down for it. And, it's something we just got to plan out with the schedule and see what can happen.
The Nick and Matt Show. We're going to sponsor this, Nick.
Yeah, we're going to present. We're going to go for right before the MVP Open. We'll get something.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that would be epic. So awesome. I'm just telling you,
we won't do it at Maple Hill. We'll just do it at a neutral course.
Yeah.
Totally.
I'm just telling you, man. Like,
private venue.
Amped up. I love the competition you guys brought. And so that's really all we had about the tournament. I kind of want to take a little turn here because there's been some recent news in the disc golf world, and I'm sure it has not eluded you, seeing your competitor, the guy we just were talking about, as in being good for your brand because of the competition that it brings. Paul Macbeth comes out with a blockbuster announcement on his contract, making it public Do you feel like it'd be beneficial for the sport if more disc golfers, professional disc golfers, made their contracts public, like we see in most every other sport? Do you feel like Paul doing that, meaning not everybody else is doing that? Do you feel like Paul doing that was beneficial for the sport? Like, what's your take on that? Like contracts and publicity?
I think it's overall, I mean, it's good for the sport, no doubt. It's kind of the first time that's really like, first time that it's kind of happened, I guess, in the sport. And so, I mean, of course I'm happy for him. I'm happy for the sport. I'm happy that, all these young kids are coming up and seeing that. And they're like, hey, this is something that I can, get into. And my parents, are going to support me, playing disc golf, as opposed to the stereotype that we've had in the past with, just, hippie stoners type thing. And that stuff is like almost so far in the past now, to where this stuff and the contracts and all these different things that are happening in disc golf, it really legitimizes it in a lot of people's eyes, to the point where, they look at it different. They look at it as a true professional sport, and we're true professional athletes that we are. And so, I mean, I think that, I never really went public with any of my stuff, just because it wasn't really the norm, and and I just didn't. But I mean, my next contract, it's something to where maybe, I saw what Paul did and helped, rejuvenate the sport and help open people's eyes. Something that I can do the same, and then, do the same thing. It helps a lot of people in future players realize their worth. Also, that's also what's happening a lot with the players, is the big companies have just, I guess, just taken advantage of the players because they didn't know their value. And so most players would just, take what they got and be happy with that. And they didn't really look any deeper as far as, hey, how many discs am I selling? We're athletes. There's a number, and we have a number that we're worth to a company based on how much we sell, how much our branding's worth, social media influencers, so many different variables that go into that number as to what we're worth. Paul's got an amazing brand. On top of that, he's an amazing player. I'm an amazing player right next to him. My brand's not quite as big, but it's very close. I mean, whatever you want to say. But yeah, he's obviously the number one name, number one brand, so he's going to get paid the most, which he rightfully deserves and has earned. And then, the top 5 players can basically situate themselves in a spot after that and say, hey, Paul's worth, whatever per year, $1 million with whatever contract he signed. If I'm the second best player in the world, I should be getting, X amount. And they go to their company and say, hey, this is what I feel like I feel like I deserve this. And this is my market value, I guess, is a good word for it. Yeah. So yeah, he's it's awesome that he's done that for, obviously for himself. He's got, he came out ahead and did the right thing, and we got an amazing contract, but it's going to help it's going to help the future generation for sure. A lot.
I think that's obviously an incredible way to look at it. And, I think one of the other things that you said as well was disc manufacturers kind of having the monopoly over what they valued players at, and not a lot of players knew what they were valued at. And so I think him coming out with this, you can kind of now compare the accolades of what these other, like you just said, the top 5 competitors can now say, hey, I've done this, this, and this. This is what I think I deserve to be paid. And you can kind of go to there. And I think it's great for the player themselves. And now they find their value. They find their worth in that. So.
No, it's awesome, and I think that the manufacturers are starting to realize that the players are realizing that, hey, we know what we're worth, and we're gonna stick to our guns and fight for what we've earned as players. Just like anything, you have a time span as an athlete to maximize your potential, and you have to make as much money as you can while you're in your prime. Which disc golf's up until you're probably 35 to 40, somewhere in that range. But, is when you can, obviously just in general. And so, yeah, the companies are starting to realize that, hey, they don't have as much leverage as they used to, because the players are digging deeper. The contracts are going public, and all the things that are going into the fact that the players really are like digging deep and realizing what they're worth, instead of just settling for whatever contract they can get.
Exactly.
Wow. I'm right there with everything you're saying. I'm excited for the sport. I see people like you, players like you, Ricky Wysocki, the brand, Socki Bomb, and obviously your trademark, or hopefully you've trademarked Socki Bomb is back.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
obviously like players like Eagle, and I'm not going to go down the whole list. I'll leave people off, but you're not wrong. Everyone's going, I could beat Paul, and I have a brand. So now you have negotiating power. So I appreciate your perspective a lot.
Yeah. No, and that's the biggest thing is having, obviously for me, my number one goal is be the best player I can be, win tournaments, and get my name out there, and also expand my brand. Some players are trying to make them names for themselves the other way around. They're trying to be a brand and play decent, not really have a chance to win, but they're just building a brand through YouTube and this stuff, which is there's a value in that as well. But if you can do both, then to a company you're worth a lot more than if you're just one or the other.
I agree.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So Rick, what does it mean to you? We talked enough about everybody else. I want to hear from your perspective, your opinion, and your feelings with this recent announcement of being the acknowledged and awarded the highest rated disc golfer in the world. Like, what does that mean to you? Did you expect that? What does it mean to you?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think the biggest thing with ratings is consistency. I think that's what that shows. It shows the consistency of your play, through obviously however many tournaments. So that's the biggest thing. Is I feel like I've always been such a consistent player, and I've prided myself on that. I've got a lot of wins, and then when I'm not winning, I'm right in contention, and I feel like I've gotten a lot of high finishes just because, like I said, I think the biggest thing that separates me is I have a style of course. Like I play well in the woods, but I can play in Vegas. I can play in the Memorial and still play well and give myself chances to win. I've won Vegas before. And so, whereas a lot of people have, they prefer the woods or they prefer the open courses, and throughout a season and throughout a career, creating a rating or getting a rating, we're playing in Delaware, we're playing in Vegas, we're playing in, Portland, we're playing, and they all have different styles of play. And so, based on how certain players are going to play well one week versus the other week, and their rating's going to fluctuate based on that. And so I think that's why I've been so high rated for so long, is because I'm able to do that throughout not just one tournament, not even just through a season, but through the past 8 to 10 years that I've been playing professionally at the top level. And so that's why I take pride in the most. Obviously I have a lot of, wins to my name and all that stuff, but the rating actually, it does mean something. And that's the biggest thing is that's what I look at when I see rating, is I see consistency, and because that's how you can judge someone's shooting well. And I know there's some funky stuff with the rating. It's not a perfect system, but it's definitely something that there has value, and there's something there that you can look at and take from it.
Yeah, I think consistency is definitely one of the best ways to put the rating system at. And like you just said, there are a ton of different flaws and there are a ton of different propagators that go into the rating system. But for the most part, it is, if you see Ricky Wysocki, 1054 rated, highest rated player in the world, more than likely at the next 5, 6, 7, 8 events, however many events, you're going to see your name pretty much at the top of that. Consistently, you are playing at a high caliber level. Then you do have those 1,000 rated guys who will pop off and shoot a 1040 average rated tournament. That does happen. But for the most part, you are consistently putting up 1050 plus rated rounds, obviously. I mean, look at Belton. You won it averaging 1079. So,
yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. And that's the thing, is that's why, there's a lot of newer players coming up, and there's a lot of people that want to make a splash and make a name for themselves and try and get a big contract from one of these companies. And that's the goal. But, it's still, me and Paul are just so settled in the sport. We're so, we have seen so much. We've played under so many different situations that it's once we both are, feeling ourselves as far as our games, and our games are on point, then it's really like, it's really going to be a sight to see. And just playing last week, I know that, he's playing really well his game. Obviously he wants to win just as much as I do. But we can both tell each other. We play with each other for so long that we can tell when each other's swing and each other's game is on and playing at a high level. And it's I think it's really exciting for me, and I should be exciting for the spectators that are going to be watching the battles.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess in closing out, and it can be a shorter answer than a longer one because we've kind of gotten to the topic here, but do you have an agent that would be negotiating for you, or is that something you're considering? I know it's newer to the sport, but is that something you'd consider in future negotiations?
Yeah, so I've got a tour manager that works with me right now. She helps with emails, she helps with social media, she helps with a lot of my just day-to-day stuff while I'm on the road to allows me to just practice and do my thing. And so she helps line up Airbnbs and just all the different behind the scenes stuff that goes into being on tour. And so she takes care of that so I can worry about playing. But as far as an agent, I don't officially have one. I have a couple people on my team that talk to my sponsors and work out deals, kind of like an agent in a way. They work on my behalf in my best interest. They're not like, I wouldn't say they're actually like sports agents. But it's something that definitely it's getting to that level to where it's going to have to be definitely thought about from my camp as far as like, do we want to have, go at the next contract deal and get someone like that on board, and it would be well worth it for both parties, the sponsors and the athlete.
Yeah, I just think I'm
legitimate on paper.
Yeah, I'm watching the chat, and we've been trying to draw back a little bit on the chat. I still see it, and if a good point's made, we'll talk about it. But people are talking, and specifically Brody Smith's in there, and a whole bunch of the other chat room right now is saying like, we're talking about the deals and all that, and agents and how that would help. And I was just curious your mindset going forward. And I think you're right. It's not fully there, but it's where it needs to get. So I'm excited for the future. I think you personally, I do not know your deal. You've never made it public. But I feel like you're worth a lot of money. So and this is just coming from a talk show host. I think you should go get as much money as you can.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that the sport is about money, but I think if you're bringing the players and you're bringing the disc sales and just everything that you've done for the sport as the highest rated player in the world, I hope the best for you, Rick.
Oh, dude, yeah. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and what I meant by the agent as far as in the future is what I meant is like my next contract deal. Not just the future disc golf, but like the next opportunity that I have to negotiate a contract, I will pretty much entertain that or do it. And so that's what I mean by the future. And so it's almost like if you're a top player and you're getting to that point, it's almost worth it now that you have to do it. Obviously, if my contract expired this year, which it doesn't, then I would probably go ahead and start talking to an agent potentially. But it's not I think I still have another 2 years on my contract. So it's not quite to that level yet, but when it is, like I said, in the future, when it is, then I will, definitely be entertaining that.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Nick, you want to close out this interview?
I was going to say, Ricky, we really appreciate you coming on the show. Just give a quick little 30 seconds. Obviously, you're the highest rated player in the world, one of the most recognizable names and faces in disc golf. But where, if people don't follow you already, where can they follow you on Instagram, YouTube? What's going on?
Yeah, SockyBomb13 on Instagram and Twitter. And then Facebook, I have a Facebook page that I update a lot. It's Ricky Wysocki. I update that a lot. I interact with people as much as I can, post discs and cool stuff, and Socky Bomb apparel. And I got my website, sockybomb.com. If you guys want to check that out, and got a lot of cool apparel and different things on there.
Cool. Well, once again, we really appreciate you coming on, Ricky. Good luck at Texas States, and we'll see you in the future.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on the show.
Thank you so much, Rick. We wish you the best.
See you. All
right, bye. All right, everybody. That was the highest rated disc golfer in the world, arguably the best. And I don't know if I need to put an asterisk on that. He's a really great disc golfer, and we saw a phenomenal course record round. He's done a lot. Did you hear Rick? I'm calling you Rick.
Yeah.
Did you hear what he said, Nick? And just your thoughts on a follow-up on it. He said his brand is big, and he was like, he was teetering on that. Maybe not as big as Paul, but big, maybe close to it, very close to it. What do you think about that? I mean, do you feel like, where do you see the separation in his brand versus Paul? Like, what do you see as the biggest separator?
Well, one of the things, I mean, Ricky setting up the whole Socky Bomb brand, it's been around for a little while now. One of the biggest things Ricky does is Ricky, he moves plastic. He sells a lot of discs with his stamps on it. He comes out with multiple different stamps for those discs. He's got shirts, he's got polos, stuff like that. His brand is there. It's developing. It's getting there. I think where Paul's brand is bigger is that Discraft really went in and took the PM brand, the Paul Macbeth brand, the PM logo, and they branded it onto sweatshirts, shirts. Sometimes they put it on discs here and there, but they put it on trucker hats, regular hats, flex fits, and everything like that, to where the brand just became, almost like the Nike and the the Jordan brand. And that was kind of how the Discraft and the PM brand, things were kind of going along that line. So I think advertisement wise, I think Discraft did more with the PM brand than obviously Innova has been doing with the Sake Bomb brand. But like Ricky said, it's getting there. He does do a lot of posting about it. I know that when we were all down in Waco, he was moving plastic. He had pictures. He had videos going on about. Like he said, his store manager, she helps out a ton with that as well.
Yeah, he does have a big brand. I mean, is his name as recognizable as Paul Macbeth's? And I feel like hands down, yes, in the disc golf world for sure. Outside of the disc golf world, like, you know, TMZ,
I think in the disc golf
ESPN,
world,
maybe not as much.
In the disc golf world, Ricky's name is definitely, you know, up there with Paul's. Absolutely. Outside of the disc golf world, Paul still has an upper hand on everyone, pretty much by kind of a long shot at this point right now.
By kind of a long shot. All right, let's do this.
Yeah,
we've got Casey White in our green room, everybody. And without further delay, we will talk more about that rivalry to come. I thought that was some interesting topics, but let's bring him in. Oh, it says Ricky Wysocki. So I've done that before. We're going to introduce him.
Casey. I was going to say, you can put it back on the screen. We can talk to, yeah, there he is.
Ricky White, Casey White, highest rated player. Casey White, welcome to the show. Totally cool to have you. You're on the road. It doesn't look like you're in a van. Where are you at right now in between tournaments, or what's going on?
Well, we just drove to Tyler, Texas this morning and met with Alyssa's dad, and he is in town. He just flew down from Minnesota, and he's playing the Texas State Championships this weekend. So we are currently staying with him at his hotel.
Okay.
Very nice.
Okay.
That's awesome.
We'll get to this. We'll get to that question in a minute. I was just going to jump ahead. Let's go ahead and talk about your recent performance. Sixth place at a disc golf pro tour. This is an elite series. That's no small feat nowadays. So how does that leave you feeling? Does this say anything about, like, what does this say to you about your good showing at this event? You're like, is this what we should expect? Did you feel like you were on fire, or did you feel like I'm starting to like cruise here? Like, first of all, congratulations. Maybe you can just enlighten us to how you felt.
Well, thanks. First of all, I mean, like, just practicing the course, I felt like all I really committed to doing was choosing my disc correctly, like just knowing where the worst miss is and then just not making that mistake. The first round, I was really just feeling it. I didn't really think much about it, but I knew I was stringing together a bunch of good shots. But round two is when it calmed down, and I really did not shoot that well. But then yesterday in the final round, I just kind of felt like I was shooting how I should. And like the putts that usually after the round I'm talking about, oh, if only those would have went in, I feel like they were going in, and it was just kind of, I don't know, it wasn't so much like the perfect round being put together, but it was just, I was playing exactly how I know I should, and what I know what I'm capable of. And I mean, that is definitely my highest performance at any event, especially with the stacked field that there was at the tournament. But I mean, I think that basically the tournament was everybody except for Simon and Eagle.
Yeah, I was going to say, player-wise, there wasn't really too many people who weren't at that event. Obviously, Eagle being one of the most recognizable people. Simon's off the road right now, so, you know, we'll give him a break on that one. But you're traveling in a van now. So you started that up this year. You and your girlfriend are both out in the van. You're living the van life. You renovated it and everything like that. What do you feel are the advantages so far touring in a van?
I mean, it's been a lot of fun so far. The flexibility is definitely the best. We just Alyssa and I have been reaching out to like hosts or tournament directors and just saying all we need is a place to park. And some days running up at this parking spot, and other days running up at the house. And like, we played a B tier, the Crush on the Concho in San Angelo, Texas a couple weeks ago. And there's camping at the course. So a couple of the times we were just like sitting by the fire and we're like, yeah, we'll just park here. But then the other times we're like, no, we'll go back and hang at the house. So it's just kind of fun being able to just, wherever we are, doesn't matter where we are, we're home. You know what I mean?
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So we're going to get a little bit deep here, but people are going to start to hear about you more. We heard about you during the live feed quite a few times, especially because it's the last round. It was live. That's how the Silver Series are working. And you were making a significant push in the front nine, especially. But what should people expect from you in the sense of not necessarily your competition level? I ask that a lot to a lot of our interviews, but more this is, are you touring around now more as a career choice, or is this more of a hobby that you're taking advantage of in this current situation? Like, you're like, this is the time I can go play disc golf, or is it like you're really pursuing this as a career? Like, what's your mindset?
As far as I'm concerned, ever since I graduated high school, I've been pursuing this as a career the entire time. Whether I was working 5 days a week with my dad and then just playing beach years on the weekend, I was still making more money playing disc golf than I was working my full-time job. Mm-hmm. So now that I'm in the van with my girlfriend and our dog, we're just kind of living the dream, doing what I know we want to do. And I don't know, I don't see anything changing anytime soon. So absolutely approaching this as a career and very far from a hobby as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think having the van obviously makes it more accessible for you to be able to go out into these different events. So obviously earlier last year, let's say midway through, just about, you were picked up by Discmania sponsorship wise. You got a promotion at the end of that year. You're now playing on is it pretty much called the Tour Team?
Yeah, it's the Tour Team.
Okay, so Tour Team. I remember years and years ago, we're talking like when you first started up, you were a big Trilogy kind of player. And then you kind of left that. You were throwing some Innova. You had a Zone in the bag. You had some Discmania stuff. Do you think other companies missed out on an opportunity by not signing you? Or do you think you've got it made right now with Discmania in the sense of like you found the company that you really want to be promoted by and a company that you really want to promote?
All of the above. Ooh. I think that is all of the above, no doubt. Ever since I was nonstop supporting Trilogy and trying to get close with all my friends that were on the team. And then when they sent me the email saying I didn't get on the team after I had a really good season in 2018, I immediately was like, no more free advertisement. And basically, ever since then, that's been my driving motivation, was to just make them regret not signing me. But absolutely with Discmania, I do think that it was a good thing, and it was like a blessing in disguise to get the weight for the right team. And I definitely think I found my place with how solid my discs are in my bag and just the people I'm on the team with, and all of it in itself is just, I feel like I'm where I need to be.
Good. Awesome. I think kind of like in closing with that, I think it's kind of funny that the Maine players up in the state of Maine, they scheduled the whole Maine versus Massachusetts challenge on a weekend where a lot of us will be at the preserve. So you don't even have any of the, top level players in Massachusetts playing that event. Kind of a bummer and everything like that. But anyways, I'm just poking fun at the Maine players.
I like your take on it, Casey. And you can elaborate a little bit. Make them regret it. I think, would you say the regret would be that next time they come back to make you an offer, that it's going to have to be 10 million for 10 years? I mean, what's your, are you turning down, would you turn down sponsors just because you felt like they roasted you or they missed out on the opportunity? Or would you facilitate a conversation for a sponsorship with anybody as long as the price is right?
That's a tough question, but I mean, it's gotta be like, if that's what I based my whole like motivation off of, it's gotta be that like, if you couldn't have me then, you can't have me now type of deal. Like, I thought I was at my best when I wanted to be on your team, and now it depends on if you think I'm better or if I'm thinking I'm better, it don't matter. It's just the fact that I wanted to be on the team and you wouldn't have me, and now it's like, sorry.
It's like, sorry, sucks to suck at that point.
10 million, 10 years is a little bit extreme on that. And I mean, I don't think many players turning that one down. It might even make me throw Prodigy if I had
to. Oh, no. You've just lost an opportunity with Prodigy. No, okay. Here's what I would say. Takes. Yeah, but here's what I would say. You're a younger player. You're in your early 20s. Am I correct? Okay.
Yeah, I just turned 21 last week.
Okay, so early 20s, 21. And I've asked this to everybody on here. How does it inspire you, though, at this point in the game? Because, like, you're getting into it, it feels like, at the right time, because other players have had to wait a long time to get anything, but you might be at the right place. Like, what's your future? Like, what's your hope of, like, how do you feel about that, I guess? Like, do you feel like there's hope that you're going to make money sooner than later? Like, actual salary?
I absolutely am aware that time is on my side. I mean, there's a lot of people out there, like, yesterday in the final round, I was playing with Nico, and the only thing he kept saying was, I'll take it. I think I'm the farthest throwing 32-year-old in the world. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, you're throwing further than I am, but that doesn't mean that I won't be throwing further than you when I'm 32. Like, that's all I was thinking. But just the fact that knowing that I've still got a long way to go and somebody like Nico is still out there winning a disc golf pro tour, like, I mean, I don't know how good I'll be in 11 years, but hopefully I've already won a couple more than just a couple pro tours by then. But all in all, I mean, like I said, I know time is on my side and not everybody can be Paul Macbeth. And like, I can't just expect to win the world championships next year, but doesn't mean that I can't in the next 5 to 10.
Mm-hmm.
You're not
wrong. I definitely think if you're looking at this as a career opportunity, you're in a position right now, time wise, you've got the accessibility with the van to honestly give it your all and to pursue that future. And then we just talked about it a little bit with Ricky, but Paul coming out with that big contract made it in a sense of where the younger generation, people slowly getting into the sport, can actually look at this as a career opportunity now.
Yep. Yeah, I know. Like I said, I never looked at it in this way until after I graduated high school and I started traveling to tournaments. And then when I started traveling, I kept making money, and I was like, okay, like maybe,
Yeah.
It was like at that point, it was still just a chance or an opportunity where it was just like a couple more tournaments away from proving myself. And I felt like I definitely did that last year, if not before.
Yeah. Well, I think one big storyline, we didn't really get to mention it too much, but I will right now, is that 2 weeks ago at Waco, you didn't cash. You took a 4 on the last hole, which actually put you out of cash by 1 stroke. And then you come back firing. You played a different course. You played a different event. It's a Silver Series one, but you ended up getting tied for 6th place with, I think, 1 bogey on the last hole.
Yeah. And so, unfortunately, I've been ridden with the can't clean up the last hole. I don't know what's going on, but 18 at Waco, I 3-putted. I had a putt for birdie on hole 18 at the Beast, and then roll outside the circle, miss the comebacker. That's what made me miss cash. And then the last 2 rounds at Belton, I missed 2 putts inside of 20 feet. Yesterday, it was my first bogey and my first miss inside the circle. And with that 1 putt, I would have had solo 6th place and a little extra money in my pocket. But it's not too much to lean on and get mad about, but I definitely haven't forgotten about it. And I definitely haven't forgotten about those putts at Waco yet either.
Nope, I hear you.
All right, we've reached this point, Casey. You've given us a lot of great insights. The chat room is loving your comments and how you're taking this mindset of your game. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Is there anyone you should shout out? We know Discmania, but like who else is supporting you that you can return the favor to?
Definitely Birdie Disc Golf Supply, New World Disc Golf, and Disc Golf 978.
That's shout out to a local shop here in Massachusetts. Supplying the world now, I think. So awesome.
Yeah, they're doing good.
All right, Casey, we totally enjoyed having you on. We look forward to seeing you up there again, making some waves, and we fully expect that. Thanks for coming on the show.
See you soon, buddy.
All right, bye. Peace. All right, everybody. That was Casey White. Nick.
Local Massachusetts
guy. So how do you what do you take away? What do you take away from that interview? I mean, I feel like something to me was like, apparently, and I don't want to make a big deal out of this, but he doesn't like Prodigy.
No, I don't know. I actually, in all the years that I've known Casey, I don't know if I've ever seen him throw a Prodigy disc, really. So maybe years before I even knew him, he might have thrown a little bit, but for the most part, I don't think he ever did. I think one of my biggest takeaways about that interview was he knows that time right now is on his side. He's young. He's got the capability right now of actually being able to go out and tour and play disc golf. And so at a young age, he's able to fully pursue it. And he understands that, and he knows that, hey, he's not getting any younger. Where does he see himself in 11 years? Kind of where Nico is at right now. So I think that's probably my biggest takeaway, is that he seems to be pretty in the sense of he's living out a dream that a lot of people are trying to live out, and he's making it work.
Yeah. For us, it's a little bit unique too, because he's local to us. Like, he was in our competition scene as an AM. And pretty quickly moved up the ranks. It's cool for us. We have a different tie to it. We will see more of him, I'm sure, out there. But really, I want to say, as always, without further ado, we have a special guest lined up that I know there are people in our chat rooms excited to hear from. They clearly came in the chat and said, we're here for Heather Young. So welcome to the show, Heather. We're really excited to have you here. How are you doing?
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. I'm doing well.
Awesome.
Very nice.
Where are you located right now?
I am at an Airbnb in Tyler, Texas for Texas States.
Okay. Tyler, Texas. And Texas, what's the biggest cultural thing or whatever that you notice between your home state and Texas? Anything stand out to you?
I would say not necessarily like culture things, but it's really weird, just a different climate and like how windy it is here. It's not windy in Tennessee, and it's just always windy here.
Yeah, shoot, that's how I felt 2 weeks ago at Waco. The wind just never stopped. It was insane. The last round, even though it wasn't nearly as windy, there were still spots of where it was gusting up and being pretty windy. It's wild. It made me not want to go back to Texas.
So let's get to it, Heather. A few shows ago here on the Nick and Matt show, I was actually asking Nick, I said, where are all of these FPO players that we were so excited to see out on we haven't seen some of the players that we know can be there at the top going into the last round. I mean, we've seen Kat and Paige. That's something we've seen forever. You last year really stepping up, making waves. Haley King, and we're waiting for the Europeans to come back over to create all this parity in the FPO. Well, you must have heard my request. And at the Open here in Belton, you were playing incredible, averaging well above your player rating. You averaged 975, which is 27 points, if I did my math correct, better than your player rating. And you had 1,006 rated final round. Something that stood out to me is Katrina in her post-round interview saying something along the lines of she was surprised at or wasn't aware that how lefty friendly is how she put it, the course played. Do you feel like the course played to your strengths as a lefty? Or do you just think in general your performance was at a high level, you're just going to take it forward to every course?
I was a little surprised when I heard her say that. I honestly didn't feel like the course favors a lefty or a righty that much. I feel like the holes are pretty equal. I mean, for the most part, Belton is just an open course, so it's just called throw it down the middle and not OB and you'll be fine. But I feel like it really gave me an opportunity to throw backhand and sidearm, which I enjoy any course that has both. I feel like if it's only one or the other, it's not really that balanced.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, kind of watching the final round FPO coverage, I did notice you leaned on the backhand and the forehand a pretty substantial amount, and you have a very smooth backhand, obviously, and you have a very smooth forehand. One of the biggest things that you're known for, though, is your putting. And I can remember the Disc Golf Network doing their little putting invitational, a couple months back. You're putting from 35, 40 feet, 45 feet. It just seems like it was dead center every single time. And the final round, you were obviously clutching up and hitting some big putts. Do you have any kind of like thoughts, what was going through your mind on the final hole of you had a big putt to potentially tie it, go into a playoff and everything like that? Were the nerves different, obviously being the last putt? Or did it just feel like, hey, this is just something that I do all the time?
I feel like it was just like something I do all the time, but it was also different on that because I was like just inside circle 2. I was like maybe 60 feet, which that's really outside of what I can feel like I'm expecting to make. So it was a little more of just try to give it a chance. Like if I was 50 feet, I think the nerves would have been a lot higher because I know I can make that putt. But being so far back, I feel like it actually gave me a chance to just be like, just give it your best round. You can do anyway, but still, it was a different sense, I guess, from being there.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, because I found myself thinking like, and how does that make you feel to know people are thinking about, oh, she's a good putter, like she could put this in? How does that make you feel?
It's pretty exciting, and it's fun being out on the course and knowing that some people might be thinking that too, because I don't know, it gives me something I can stand out in an FPO if I'm putting really well, like I know I can.
Yeah, for sure. So going into a tournament, and we're just getting to know you. I mean, you're new to the scene. I mean, obviously you played out all last year and you played some of the year before that, but really in the scene this year, what is your mindset? Let the fans know, let your fans know, let our followers know. What's your mindset when you're going into a tournament? Are you envisioning, hey, I'm going out there to win that, like we hear some competitors talk about? Or is your mindset more along the lines of, I'm just going to play my best and see how the disc flies today? Like, what's your mindset?
I would honestly say that before Belton, my mindset has been much more of go into this tournament, do the best I can, and see what happens. But I feel like the final round of Belton and then now, it proved to me that I can be at the very top and actually be competing for the win. Like, I've been close before, but never actually in the situation of, okay, I could win this. So I feel like it's changed how I'm going to look at tournaments in the future.
Interesting.
That's awesome.
Interesting.
I think one thing that the disc golf world knows about you is obviously you love the color purple. And it's been awesome for your brand in and of itself. It's been awesome because Prodigy's done some very funny commercials with it. What is something that the disc golf world doesn't know about you?
Is there something else? Yeah, is there something else that you like to do? Like, we see purple, but like, do you like to ride bikes? Do you like to ice skate? Do you like to eat? Do you like to fish? Like, what's something else we don't know about you?
Okay, let's see. I mean, I like doing anything outdoors. I know what it is. One of my sisters and I got to go caving not long ago with friends. That was really exciting. That's something I'm hoping to do more of.
That's cool. And especially traveling around the country playing disc golf, you'll definitely have the opportunities to be able to do that. So that's definitely a cool thing to like.
Have you, okay, just sidestepping really quick while we have Heather here. Nick, have you ever done caving, like spelunking, like going down a little hole?
No, I've done Purgatory Chasm in Massachusetts where you walk through the caves a little bit, but there's never been anything absolutely intense. So
I've once, and this is another story for another time, went down a small hole and just like had to breathe slowly and just be like, you're not going to die, but you think you're going to die. So like, anyways, that's awesome. Is that the type of caving you're talking about, Heather?
Yeah, it was like, you need to be careful where you're going or you might get stuck.
Oh, that is so good. So let me ask this. What part of your game as a competitor, a disc golf professional, what part of your game are you focusing on right now at this time of your history of the sport as a player? What is it? Is it a forehand, backhand, putting, mental game, run up? Like for you, what is something you're working on the most right now?
Right now, I would probably say my putting. Earlier in the year, it really wasn't feeling good. I just felt like my putters weren't coming out clean. I was just not feeling confident, but I've been putting in a lot of work in the past couple weeks, and I feel like, I saw it pay off some this weekend, and I'm feeling good and confident now, so I just want to keep growing that.
Awesome.
What kind of personal goals do you have yourself this year? You kind of just talked about really quick on your mindset into tournaments just changed for you being close to being in that position of, hey, I can actually win this tournament. Does that actually change any of the goals that you previously had?
I would say my goals going into this year from like the very beginning of this year have been, I know I'm capable of being in the top 5 at every event. So that's my goal going into any event. But winning wasn't necessarily, like, it was a goal, but it wasn't necessarily an expectation. I feel like this weekend changed it to where that's actually a goal for this year, is to win one of the major events.
Nice.
Or
That's
more
awesome.
than one, but at
Yeah.
least one.
Yeah, but at least one. Definitely get that first one under the belt. That'd be awesome.
I love that. And anybody who's playing professional disc golf is a competitor. That's probably why they're in it. There's probably no other reason. I love the competitor's mindset. She's like, actually more than one, as many as I can get. So we appreciate that from you. Heather, before we let you go, we'd love to give you an opportunity to shout out those who are supporting you and maybe let our fans and your fans know how they can support you. So any sponsors or how they could follow you.
Awesome. Thank you. I want to thank my sponsors, Prodigy Discs and Flight Fan Discs. I'm so grateful for all you're doing to help me on the tour. And then watching for a Prodigy Signature Series disc that could be coming out soon. And also Flight Factory Discs has purple hoodies and long sleeves available right now.
Purple.
Awesome. So people go check that out. Go help out and support Heather Young on her tour and her efforts to play professional disc golf. Obviously, we saw this last weekend that you are able to compete at that top level. And so we look forward to having you on the show again. And we more so look forward to seeing you on more live coverage.
Thank you.
Yeah, appreciated having you on the show. Have a great evening and good luck for your future tournaments here. Heather, have a great evening.
Thanks. You too.
All right. Bye.
Have a great night. Bye.
All right, everybody. If you couldn't tell, that was Heather Young. What a cool person. But remind me to, in our check boxes that we're following for the award of the year for, best internet connection. She's going to go down that list, maybe just above Nick Carl's internet connection from last week, but
from previous weeks, it has not been great, but that's all right. I was able to understand what she was saying, so I'm sure we'll be able to clean it up, all the audio and everything like that, but super fun interview to have on. Heather, I met her, I think, last year at the Great Lakes Open, and obviously I've seen her throughout different events. She's always kind, always has a smile on her face, and she is a filthy good putter. So that it's actually insane watching it sometimes.
Yeah, cool interview. So that, man, Nick, that was action-packed. That was action-packed interviews, one after another after another. I want to kind of decompress a little bit on that. Is Ricky... We asked him, are we going to see the same parity that we've seen at the beginning of the year? Because realistically, think about it. There's not been a duplicate winner yet. I'm not wrong, right? I'm not wrong.
No, you're not. I don't think you are.
And even the top,
wild.
Yeah, but even the top 3 podium, I feel like has been pretty different.
It's been different. Yeah, it definitely has. Trying to think.
Eagle took it down. Then he gets 47th. And then you have Ezra almost taking it down. Now he's shooting less than 20 place or worse.
Yeah, miss cash at the Open.
Yeah.
Open a belt, miss cash there. It's something we'll talk about in just a little bit.
Ricky started out, I think it was 5th and 11th, and then first here. And then Paul went I'm just thinking out loud of the tour season. And then Paul went 11th, 5th, and then first at Memorial, and then second here. So it is just the parity has been this year, I feel way different than any other year we've had.
Yeah.
Is it going to continue like that, like the parity? What's going to happen at Texas State?
Oh, I don't know. That's such a tough question to answer because honestly, I don't know. I'd have to watch coverage of the tournament event because obviously I base my picks off of how I think a player can play in certain conditions when it comes to the course and everything like that. And honestly, I don't know if I've ever watched coverage of this course. So I honestly have no predictions in the sense of be ready to see Ricky and Paul at the top again. Obviously, they both just came off a stellar weekend. Paul's obviously going to be hungry for that first big win. And obviously, there hasn't been a national tour since 2020. So, and I don't even know if there ever a fit. No, there was Vegas of last year, I think, was a national tour. But other than that, the players haven't played one in over a year. So be on the lookout for a lot of players really hungry to get that national tour win.
Speaking of Texas State, there's a topic here that I'm a little bit interested in your perspective. I've got a take on it. And I think that national tour events, you can mark it down, people. And I say mark it down. I have no inside scoop on this, but we've been watching this for years. And with COVID, the way it happened and then pulling out, and then the Pro Tour coming in this year and saying, hey, we're going to offer you all of the media package. We're going to do coverage for you the same way we do it for the Pro Tour, live events, coverage, the whole 9 yards. They're managing the COVID policies. It's my opinion that we are going to see the national tour be absorbed, if you will, into the Disc Golf Pro Tour. And I don't want to say next year, although that might be a hot take, but I would say within the next 3 years, that's my take, that we will see the national tour go away. Do you have any perspective on that, Nick?
I honestly, I think it makes sense. I think the PDGA should focus on different things rather than trying to run a national tour. I think there's different areas that the PDGA can really focus on. I think one of them is more so bigger amateur events. I feel like, growth of disc golf outside of tournaments itself. I think what the Disc Golf Pro Tour is doing right now, what they are doing is incredible. And I think they're setting up a schedule that is beneficial to anyone trying to tour. So honestly, I think the Disc Golf Pro Tour should be the main factor of, this is the Players Tour. This is what everyone goes out, and you have the Silver Series events of tournaments that want to be on the Pro Tour. Majors, though, I know we're talking national tours right now. I think that's where, if Pro Tours want to not take over majors, but I think if Pro Tours want to help run majors, I think that would also be huge. But yeah, honestly, what you just said, because you got to look at it as in, you had Waco, which was a Pro Tour, the Open at Belton, which was a Silver Series, and now you have a national tour in Texas. Why not just make it Pro Tour, Pro Tour, Pro Tour, or Pro Tour and then a Silver Series again, and then another Pro Tour? Like Ricky said earlier, up in Oregon, there's going to be Beaver State Fling, which I think in years past has been a national tour event. You have the Portland Open, and then you got Beaver State Fling. Make them both Pro Tour events, and then it all schedules under one specific tour. Players are playing for points on one tour rather than two different tours. Stuff like that.
Yeah, so I'll come back to this interview, or not this interview, you're in my topic here one day, and I'll say, yeah, I was wrong or I was right. But I kind of feel like I'm right there. So mark it down, people. We'd be interested in your opinions. Do you think it would be healthy for the sport? Do you think the PDGA should step aside and let the entity of the Disc Golf Pro Tour handle the touring efforts and just combine it all the efforts towards one tour? I'm not saying there shouldn't be multiple tours. I guess I'm more saying the PDGA being a part of that. They should be the support entity. So
exactly.
That's kind of my take there. So you kind of just mentioned it a second ago, Nick. Let's kind of talk about it a little bit more. Is Silver Series event. We saw those. I think you would think I would know this off the top of my head. I feel like this is the first year where they're actually being called Silver Series. It might have been the end of last year. It was a newer introduced thing.
I think they were last year as well. I remember Maine ran Silver Series event last year, so I'm pretty sure they were called Silver Series.
Okay, there was less, right? There was less Silver Series.
Yes. Yeah. There was less of them.
So there's a lot more now. I think there's almost as many as there are actual Pro Tour events. I think there's just about 10, and then there's Pro Tour events or maybe 12 or something like that. But so what is a Silver Series, and what did we see, at the Open at Belton? I'm going to get it right. What did we see there? What is that? It's an A tier. It's not an elite series, as the PDGA would call it. It's an A tier that was on steroids because it was Disc Golf Pro Tour related. You saw all the top players, I want to say, in the world there, and you had live coverage. Like, why did players go there? Was it because the DGPT stamp was on it?
Well, I think one of the main reasons why a lot of players went to it is because I'm pretty sure it was only a 45-minute drive south of Waco, maybe an hour and 15 at most. So I think convenience-wise, they were already in the area. Why fly out, miss an event, and then just fly back into Texas for a national tour event? Because obviously a lot of the big-time players are playing both of those. So I think convenience-wise, that's why a lot of players went to it. And then I think because it's so early on in the season, players do want to get those couple of wins out of the way, maybe get their confidence built up. And then I know one reason why a lot of players are playing a lot of events this year is, there is still that mindset of, is this season going to be a full season? Obviously, last season wasn't. And a lot of players are trying to get in as many tournaments as they can this year because who knows if it's going to be a full season. So I think that's one main reason why a lot of players are playing these Silver Series events. When I say players, I mean like top caliber players. Because last year there were a few main state championships. I don't think Ricky or Paul or Eagle even went to those. I think Simon, Kevin Jones, Garrett Gerthy, a couple players like that went to them, but your top 5 players normally did not.
Yeah, and I'm glad Ricky came on and said what he said about the course. He thinks it's DGP, like he thinks it's the level. He thinks the course is good enough.
Mm-hmm.
The par is soft. So that was an interesting perspective. Did that shake your opinion at all?
Well, so it definitely shook my opinion in the sense of from an outside view, and obviously looking at the scorecards and everything like that, you look at it and you say, wow, this course is way too easy. These players are shredding it. What is going on? I think Ricky saying, hey, this is a top caliber course. The pars are obviously wrong on a couple of the holes, which that's simple enough. And then he said hole 13 needs to just be wiped completely. It kills the flow of the course. It's just not a well-made hole. So I think with a few changes that the people running that event, the volunteers helping out at that event, I think with a few small changes, maybe it is a top caliber course. Maybe tighten up the OB in certain areas. I mean, that obviously tightening up the OB isn't the answer to everything, but I do think that that'll make a course harder, obviously.
If they got rid of the par 5 and made it they made it a little bit harder and called it a par 4, or they made it a little bit easier and called it a par 3, the par 5, the one that 2 albatrosses were on. Like 50 eagles or something like.
So I was talking to Paul about that, and because I'd asked him, I was watching coverage, I'd seen that Yuli had albatrossed. I had seen a ton of people birdieing it, a ton of people eagling it, obviously, and I looked at it, it was a 399-foot par 5, and I was like, all right, something's clearly wrong. And I asked Paul about it, and he's like, look, cut down a couple trees and you have a hard par 3, which I'd honestly, I'd rather see that than what looked like a poke and hope hole that players, like Yuli, nothing against Yuli getting an albatross on it. That's an incredible shot, but hyzer flipping what looks like a mantis, just, getting it perfectly throughout the trees, landing 40, 45 feet, made a great putt. But at the same time, he made an incredible shot on kind of a lucky hole. And, he only gained a stroke on some people. Like that's what's wild to me. So
yeah, but to the point I made and you agreed with is either make it easier and I guess this was Paul's point as well. Take a few trees down and make it a par 3.
Yeah.
Or make it just maybe a little bit tougher and call it a par 4. So actually make the hole a little tougher and call it a par 4. I feel like though, if we can get it to a par 3 and then realistically, you're not going to make par 3s out there par 2s. So either they're going to have to make the hole a little bit tougher. I think someone shooting 16 down, or we've seen Paul do 18 down, all these things, it's a testament obviously to their athletics and their skills to be able to do that. Yeah. There's no way around saying that. I mean, it's a course record. People aren't doing this every day.
Yeah.
And this would be a whole nother conversation on par, but for the optics of disc golf, and this was not a major elite series or elite series, but for the optics of disc golf, I don't know if that's the game that we're playing where it's like, hey, shoot 18 under, 16 under, 15 under. Like I'm willing to argue it both ways, but that's what a Silver Series was. I think they're going to make some cleanup adjustments and it's perfect. Mm-hmm. It was a test. That's what Silver Series is, a test.
They're test events
to see and to make sure. And now guess what? They gleaned whatever they did, par, this, that, whatever it was. And next year, if they decide to make it an event, expect it to be better, if you will.
Yeah. So however the grading system works for the Disc Golf Pro Tour, I'm not 100% sure, but if I could say, look, Jeff goes to that event and says, hey, if you guys clean up these 5 things, we'll definitely look into making this a Disc Golf Pro Tour event next year. And I think, if Waco stays on as an event, then you got the Open at Belton and then potentially Texas State's going back to back to back again like this year. Touring wise, it just makes a lot of sense. So look, one of the top professionals in our sport said it is a high caliber course. Make it a little bit harder, change some of the pars, and you have a phenomenal course. And from watching the coverage, it did look like a fun course. I did see a lot of cool holes. I like that par 3 that was in between all those trees. It was like a nice forehand, 400 somewhat feet. It was just a nice looking hole. So,
well, I feel like we'd be remiss to miss this opportunity to do our Brody tracker like we have been doing. Unfortunately for Brody, it went in the wrong direction. We've been pleasantly, and I'll use the word surprised. I think surprise in not the strong word. Like, I don't mean it in the like, we had no idea it could happen, but surprised pleasantly that he came out this year performing and like almost top 20 finishes. Like he's just really doing well out there, to go into the Open here at Belton and shooting, was it 70th, I think, Nick?
Yeah, I can look at that. I don't remember exactly what it was.
While you
was
look,
one of my notable players.
It is 70th.
Yeah. Yep, go for it.
Okay, it is 70th. Okay. I just pulled it up. And what's interesting is he still shot, I say still, it's going to sound funny compared to 43 under, but he still shot 9 under par over 3 rounds. Now, that probably feels pretty gross when everybody else is coming in saying, I shot 8 down, 9 down, 10 down. I say everybody, that's obviously hyperbole there. I don't mean everybody. But still shooting under par. I did not look up his average rating there.
Well, that's what I'm looking at right now. He went 1,000, 977, 982. So you got to think he's probably averaging around the 985-ish range, just about. I mean, obviously that's, you know, if it's 985, it's 17 points below his rating. He's a 1,002 rated player. So, I mean, obviously, I, without a doubt, could say that he's hella disappointed with it. And I know one of the biggest reasons is if you actually look at his first round, he played on a great card. He played with Ricky, someone else that was top level, and then I don't remember the last name, but Brody started out 5 through 5. He was actually murdering it. He was 5 down through 5 holes, and so it was like, okay, this, you know, is this Brody's time to shine? And then it just slowly kind of like, he started 5 for 5 throughout the tournament. He ended only 9 down. So obviously disappointment in and of itself is that, to where you could technically say, look, he parred everything else and then got 4 birdies. I know that's obviously not the case, but you know, that's.
I didn't look up here, and you think I would have. I just pulled it up right now. 3 OB throws in the final round. I do not know his other rounds, but I have a feeling OB probably played a portion of this. He throws, and I'll use the word surprising again. Probably because of him being so new to the sport, it's surprising because it's not something we're used to. Now, obviously, he's thrown frisbees and he's done disc sports and he's an athlete at some level. Okay. And I mean that because I haven't observed all of his athleticism, but he's demonstrating that he's athletic, and he was able to throw. He's able to throw over 500 feet. And that is something that shaves strokes right there. So I'm wondering kind of what the exact details were there. But as far as the Brody tracker concerned, pretty good average. This is gonna ding it a fair amount. But if his average is gonna hold true, I feel like he's gonna come back up a little bit.
Yeah, I think honestly, you know, we talked about ratings and the consistency earlier. Like consistently, he had a bad weekend of this one. Memorial though, he played well. Waco, he played well. He averaged above his rating. He consistently averaged above his rating. So I think this weekend obviously will hurt that a little bit, but obviously he's playing a couple more events before the next ratings update. So I don't think we'll see his rating go down. If anything, I think we'll see it go back up another couple of points. So that's just the funness of the rating system. But, you know, in the past, we've heard Brody say, look, once he gets 1,000 rated, he doesn't care anymore about the ratings. So I'm sure at this point, you know, he doesn't care about that. He cares about going out and showing the best, you know, that he can be on the course.
Does he care about going under 1,000 with his rating?
I don't know,
because
you know, he did say, he's like,
something.
once I hit 1,000, I don't care anymore. So I'm curious.
Yeah,
if
but
he,
if
you know,
can't
somehow
keep
magically
it,
was the
but if you can't keep 1,000, I tapped 1,000 with ratings. Not player rating, but I've tapped thousands, and it's like I think there's something to be said about maintaining that.
I think for the most part, the tournaments that he's played the last few weeks, being Memorial and Waco, it won't go below 1,000.
No, I'm just saying. I was just It probably won't go below 1,000. No, I just went out and shot around at Maple Hill League.
Mm-hmm.
Nick, give me inside scoop. We're just catching up here. Our listeners and our viewers are like, dude, you can do this phone call off the show. But like, do you feel like league tournaments, and actually this actually kind of ties to Brody.
League rated round.
Yeah, because he did a league rated round in the beginning, and I think there was a little bit, I don't want to say controversy, but there was a little bit of like, oh, well, that's not really how like ratings work. What do you think about league ratings? Because I shot par on Maple Hill Whites. Whites. I shot straight 56. I'm not super happy with that. Any idea what you think that would be rated? Just straight par, just off the top of your head.
Well, I think I'm kind of cheating because I did see, I actually went through and looked at the ratings, but I think if I had to look at it, 48 was 10-14.
All right. Well, then you know. But that's my point, though. I feel like a 48.
949. I was going to say 948.
Well, no, I was going to say a 48 being 1,014. I feel like it should be a little higher than that. That's just my opinion. A 48 is pretty good. Anyways, it depends on the field. I'll just get to the point. I was not happy. I got like a 931 or something shooting par on Whites. And I'm pretty sure they advertise Whites as being par at like a 950 or something.
I think, when I look at the Whites course, one of the biggest things is, there's OB here and there being the water, but a lot of the holes, you're really not dealing with any specific danger. So to be honest, I think the ratings actually played pretty well. In the sense that I'd rather see a course like that. I'd rather see even par rated at 950. So obviously it was a little bit off. But for the most part,
I don't have 1,000. I don't have 1,000 player rating. It matters to me still. It matters to me still.
I don't know exactly. I mean, that's like I was talking to my buddy Kyle about it, and I was saying, like, I'm pretty sure the last time Kyle and I went out and played Whites, we shot like 44s or 45. So I was like, oh, it'd be nice to do during a league round, because I mean, we're like 1040 rated.
Oh, you feel like it? You feel like so league rounds are fluctuating. You feel like league rounds might inflate a rating?
No.
Okay.
No, because you have so many different propagators of like. With Maple, it all depends on the course. That's the biggest thing. Is that's why I don't like player ratings. I'd rather a course be rated. But
that's another topic.
You had two amateur one players shooting a 48 and a 50, and they beat all the pros. And so that kind of cripples pros ratings because the pros were rated higher. And when they, shot average or maybe below average, but then a couple amateur people went out and shot lights out like that kills the pros ratings. That's why
I played.
If I'm going to go play a league round, I'm going to go make sure that I can murder that course. But like, this is one of the biggest things at the beginning of the year when Paul lost being the highest rated player in the world. That turned from Paul playing a league round out in Huntington Beach where he won the league round, but only averaged like 1030 at it, And so that's where it's like that. I don't know.
Anyways,
which I think the whole night we were calling Ricky the highest rated player in the world, but isn't Eagle?
Oh my goodness.
Now that I think about it,
how was that the biggest?
So dumb.
That was the biggest glitch of my show. I like literally brain freeze. But you know what's interesting? Yeah. Everyone's gonna call us out on this later. Yeah. But no one in the chat.
Please pay attention. Pay attention to the end of the show. I just realized, Eagle. The only reason I said Ricky was the highest rated is because I was listening to Matt. Eagle is the highest rated at 1056. So
that's one of our biggest blunders.
Like, oh my god,
that's one of our biggest blunders. That's so funny. No, but to go back on it, Ricky was for a portion, right? He was tied. Right before Eagle took it.
When I started talking about Paul's rated round and why he dropped, he was at 1054. He was at one point the highest rated player in the world. And then after Vegas, when February or Marches, when the player ratings came out in March.
Boo on Nick and Matt.
Everyone's gonna roast us.
We just wanted to pump up our guest. I saw that in the chat. Someone said, "Oh, Matt is such a Ricky fanboy," and I'm like, really? Okay, so we corrected that. We'll have to go back and edit. It'll be funny, Nick. It'll be like welcoming the player of the world. We'll just edit out like highest. All right, so let me ask this question. I think it's a fair topic. It's kind of just like plucked out of a hat, if you will. But is Kevin Jones Disc Golf Pro Tour champion of 2020, coming into 2021. Am I wrong to say, unless you are actively scanning all of the stats of how a tournament played out, you have not heard the name Kevin Jones, like in a tournament? Am I wrong?
Well, I mean, technically speaking, did he play at the Open? Because I didn't hear his name at all. So now it's got me curious. Did he even play
I'm pretty
there?
sure. And he went 14th place. You didn't even
14th
know.
place. Okay. Yeah, see, I didn't.
So I'm bringing this topic up because what is going on? Now, we could bring him on the show, or I say, like, we can just drag him on. We could invite him on the show to talk about it.
Hey.
As I'm sure he's probably has his own insights. This is going to sound offensive. Is he trying his hardest? And I bring that up because you win the Pro Tour champion, you kind of get on this bubble and you think, I'm pretty good at disc golf. You go into this year, he's a professional athlete. I'm not saying he doesn't need the money, and I don't know what his contract with Prodigy looks like. But he did have a significant winnings, and he's probably just enjoying. Maybe I'm 100% wrong. He's an I actually pick him as probably my most athletic, just about most athletic player. I can't say top 5 most athletic. He knows how to compete. Any idea, Nick? What is your take? Why is he just not, like, we haven't heard from him? And are we going to?
I don't know. I was just briefly looking at his stats at Belton, and every round he progressively got better. He shot 57, 54, 53. So obviously I think he's getting into the groove of things again. I have no idea how his offseason looked. I have no idea what his, middle of the season is looking like or anything like during the season. I don't know his routine, but I can't imagine we'll see him, lower than we're normally used to too much longer. I think, within the next few tournaments, we'll see his name pop back up into the top 5, top 7, top 10. But right now, I don't know. Like I said, I don't really know Kevin too well, so I can't give you a full-on reason as to why I think he's not playing well. I think just it's a singular sport. You're playing you against the course, and at times, you hit a rough patch. I can speak personally on that, to where, in Vegas, I played well. I averaged above my rating. And then I went to Waco and I shot very poorly. I played below my rating. And then I just played a B tier on Saturday. I played well. I shot up on my rating again. So I think week in and week out, you're playing a sport. Mentally, he could be exhausted. Mentally, he could be dealing with some stuff outside of disc golf. But like I said, he's an incredible player. Obviously, Disc Golf Pro Tour champion, multiple Disc Golf Pro Tour winner. Like I said, I can't imagine he'll be where we don't see his name too much longer.
I appreciate your insights. I also appreciate our chat room. They said they were calling us out the whole time on highest rated player. I missed it. We're trying to do better at focusing on our interviews. And then I just want to say, Brody's in the chat, and he makes a point that I think is worth discussing. He says, the term or the idea most athletic is a weird thing. And he says people love to talk about it. Where I'm coming from as a disc golf viewer, and if you want to say analyst or sports talk on this, where I'm coming from on most athletic is I know his background. Okay. High level football. I say high level, obviously not making it into NFL. But the idea is his dad coached, just athletic in the term of he's a guy who can pick up a basketball and not regularly practice basketball and compete with you hard. Golf. I've seen videos of him playing fairly. Now, Brody, I'm talking about Brody. Brody plays golf at fairly high level. That'd be a fun challenge to see him and all these people go. That would be really cool. We should do like a ball and chain tournament. But I guess that's what I mean when I say most athletic. Doesn't necessarily translate to disc golf, but the ability to balance well, your motions. That's why Paul can throw farther than me, because he's more athletic. And Nick, break it down. When Paul is reviewing some of your form, I've seen it before because I've been hanging out with you guys. He's saying, Nick, you need to change your arm from this type of emotion to this type of, or whatever. Like, I'm just trying to demonstrate. He's going through and he's saying like, this is a athletic motion. The point is, when you're athletic, you understand how your body works better and how to get the most efficiency out of it. That's what I mean when I say most athletic. You still have to have a mental game, but that's my take on what I mean.
I think when we talk about, like you just said, when we talk about most athletic in our sport, obviously there are players who are multiple sport athletes. You have Brody, you have Paul, you have Ricky, Kevin. I know Nate Perkins is actually a very athletic dude. You have all these different players, but I think when we talk about athletic in the sport of disc golf, like you were just saying, like they look athletic when they're playing. They have athletic form. Like Kevin, slips every so often, and I think one of the reasons for that is slippery surfaces. I know the slip that he had at Maple Hill is because the wood. He stepped on the wood. But for the most part, Kevin has a very athletic form. He's got a great sidearm, great backhand. He's got a very powerful putt. So we talk about his athleticism in that sense, to where he looks athletic when he's playing disc golf.
Yeah, I see the chat saying, "Oh, he's only played two events. Maybe we shouldn't make assumptions on that." My question then, and maybe this is presumptuous, but why is such a why not play more events? And I could say the same thing maybe towards Eagle too, and I've had that same question. I think it's a fair question. Like, do you have to pack your schedule to play 52 events a year or more? I'm not suggesting that. I just feel like, go.
Technically it's the third event, which I think a lot of players are right now on their third event.
We just haven't heard Kevin Jones. We have not heard his name at all. Now,
exactly. No, it's not the worst thing in the world not hearing his name right now. That's not saying that he's never going to come back up into the top 5.
Right.
But
it's a conversation.
For someone to come off of a strong 2020 season where he won D-Glow, he won the Pro Tour Championships, to so far not really be making a big name for himself.
How about Chris Dickerson? Do you feel at all similar about that name? And again, we're not making hot takes here. I'm just saying that what I'm experiencing coming out of last year was Chris Dickerson. Oh my goodness, player of the year, like Chris Dickerson. Kevin Jones, Disc Golf Pro Tour, like just hearing this on repeat. I think even names, and maybe this was too big of a feeling here, but Kyle Klein, I mean, he was making waves like towards the end of the year. And we can still see all of that. I'm not saying we're not going to. I'm just saying coming out of last year and into this year, that's kind of how I'm feeling with those names.
With the Dickerson one, the Dickerson case, I think, is always a different one in the sense of he doesn't travel a lot to the West Coast. So early on in the season and even midway through the season, you're not going to see his name a lot because he just doesn't do the West Coast swing. But if you look at his stats right now, he's already got 3 wins, 2 C tiers and a B tier, which this one actually might be B tier as well. It says Pro-Am C/B tier. So potentially 3 B tier wins or 2 B tier wins and a C tier. 7th at Waco. And then got 4th at, I don't know what an L series event is, but he's not having a terrible year. Obviously, he just got 6th place, tied for 6th place at Belton.
I was just going to say, and so I want to clarify for the sake of conversation. I'm not saying that they're finishing outside of where they should. Okay. Kevin Jones, 14th. That's not horrible. Yeah. Chris Dickerson.
But Kevin Jones, 56th at Waco. That's, that's not what we're used to seeing with Kevin Jones. That's more so, I think, where our conversation is going.
To be fair, Eagle was in the same boat. And we'll actually get this one right. Highest rated disc golfer in the world.
Yeah.
And Chris Dickerson getting 6th at this recent event. That's actually, we have to be clear, like that's good performance.
Yes.
I guess to clarify my point is, why are we not hearing about these players? Are they playing quote unquote boring golf to where there's no storyline? Is that what's happening here? And now there's just so much more parity with a Nico up there, with younger players making the top, playing out of their minds. This is different than what we're used to. That's my takeaway. Yeah. And I brought those names up as a point of we haven't heard them called out recently. Are we going to? I expect it. I do expect
more
it.
Than likely. Yeah.
But is it just it's taken ramp up? They'll be halfway through the season, or are we going to see it here at Texas State? I don't know. There's too much going on to make that call.
No, I hear you.
Finally, just to touch up a little bit on what we talked to with Rick, and we brought up Paul and their social media posts. I thought, I don't want to say first time, but going into the quote unquote battle between the two, I felt like there was a little bit of this like friendly rivalry. Like it was there, but they were being super classy professional. And it was like, here we go, like we're looking forward to it, and like tagging each other kind of a thing, and like this is awesome. And then it happened, and then Paul, again classy, said, you know, congrats to Saki Bomb, and he said another chapter, and I thought it was unique. I don't know who read whose post first. I think it was Ricky probably read Paul's, but they both wrote the idea. It's the next chapter in this competition, right? And what I wanted to take away though was something that Paul said was like bring back the fans, bring back the spectators. Yeah. What do you think the purpose of writing that after the event was? Like, what do you think Paul's thinking there when he says bring it back? Just for it's not tied to the way the tournament played out, and you think he just strictly wants spectators back, or do you think it was tied to his performance?
No, I think in the sense of, you know, a lot of the top pros want the spectators back because those are moments that, you know, they live for, in the sense of they're playing in front of a crowd, they're playing for the win in front of a crowd, and you can hear the, you know, the oohs and the ahs going around. And for a lot of people, they kind of feed off that. It makes it more of an intense moment, and it kind of makes them, I would say, fired up. And professional athletes have said it, you know, professional disc golfers have said it, that 2020 playing in front of no one, it is like the most boring thing, because you're going to, you know, like I remember last year at GMC where you have players making incredible shots and no one's clapping because there's no one there besides for, you know, the support person that people are allowed to have, or, you know, people who are still on the course or something like that. So it's more so because it's awkward. I think personally, I think a lot of players are in the boat of where it's just kind of awkward right now, not having fans. And a lot of times, like, those are the people, you know, who help support pros are the fans. And, you know, a lot of pros love signing discs. A lot of pros love taking pictures with their fans. They love having those 30 seconds of kind of like that moment of player and fan. So I think that's one big reason. I know Paul loves the energy that a crowd can bring. I mean, you can look at some of Paul's biggest wins in his past. They've been in front of massive crowds. The European Opens, the 2014 Worlds in the Portland, Oregon. I mean, imagine that playoff going down in 2014 with no one cheering after Paul just hit another 35-footer, or no one yelling, you know, oh my God, when Ricky hit the tree in the playoff where Paul won that hole. Like, it's more, I'm not going to say it's boring because it doesn't take away the accolade of winning a top-notch event, but it's definitely more boring, I would say.
Oh, as a competitor, I can imagine that's what you, I don't want to say live for, but we've interviewed Paul before, way back last year. And I asked him, or I've asked him at some point, I don't remember what show it was on, like, would you like to find yourself playing for thousands of people, or just like smaller groups, keep the sport more or less how it is? And I know that sounds like a stupid question. I think it was worded better at the time. Yeah. But the point was, he's like, no, like I kind of live for the moments of having all the people there and the pressure. It's just the big moments.
Yeah. I think in the few times that I've ever had a crowd watching my disc golf round, it's fun. Like, I like that. I like that excitement of, you know, you hit a big putt, a 35, 40, 45 footer, and a ton of people are cheering for you. Like, that's just a great moment. And that's a fun thing. Like, I remember 2 years ago, I played on a card with Reed Friscara, Seppo Payu, and Jordan Castro over at MVP. And for the first 3 or 4 holes, like, we actually had a pretty big crowd following us. And I remember I parked hole 3 at Maple Golds, and, you know, the crowd went wild. It was pretty sick. Like everyone was cheering, and that was just like a, holy crap, that was a feel good moment. And so for me personally, as someone who does not play in front of crowds, almost ever, that is a cool feeling. So I can't imagine how it is for the pros who they are so accustomed to this that all of a sudden it was like, okay, boom, gone. Second round of Waco back in 2020, no spectators allowed. So then you have Colton getting his first big pro tour win, and he's got no one there to, besides for, other players and stuff like that. He's got no fans there to pretty much congratulate him at that point. Sucks.
I was probably picking at his post a little much, and I'm glad for your perspective, and that's why it's the Nick and Matt show. Because I felt like, and again, I was just trying to read into it, and probably wrong. Paul, if you're listening, you can send me a message or don't. Let us just have our hot takes. We'll keep it that way. But I felt like he was kind of saying like, hey, had we had spectators there, I might have played a little better. Now, that's just literally kind of how I read it. I was like, yeah, a missed putt there. Like, Paul performs really well under pressure and with people watching. I think you add both of those. He had the pressure.
Yep.
Just a side note, my son Hunter, junior sponsored disc golfer, has told me, and he's only he just turned 11, but he has told me at one point in a side conversation after a competition, I said like, hey, does having a gallery there make you nervous? He's performed at Worlds, he's performed at US Juniors, all these other things. And he actually told me, Dad, I like when there's a lot of people watching, because I said he says, I play better when people are watching because, and it helps him, I think, focus. It's like, I'm going to show them that I can put in this 40-footer. And so I think, so that's me picking apart, obviously, his social post, and it means nothing. I'm just making something up out of his post. I think you're right. It's just a simple, we want the spectators to enjoy what's awesome and happening right now. It's kind of a letdown that Ricky and I are battling, and we can't have everybody there. But do you think,
I think that's one big
hot take, do you think he could have pulled off the tie or the victory had we had 500 or 1,000 people watching? Paul Macbeth, does he get an advantage?
Yeah, I don't know if there's necessarily an advantage, because I think Ricky could say the same thing, that he feeds off that as well.
True.
I think if there's 500 people there, Paul could have won it. I think if there's 500 people there, Ricky could have won it. I mean, you can't take away that Ricky, he shot 16 down on the course. They both went bogey free. I mean, he played a great round. I think, obviously, Paul does love those moments. Paul does love the spectator aspect of the sport. And I think after a year of having realistically no spectators, a lot of pros are ready to be back in that seat of where, there are hundreds of people, watching this event live. Yeah,
it's been an interesting year so far. I'm going to kind of start to wrap up the show with that. We have come to it. We've analyzed it a little bit with our takes. There's going to be plenty of people who have their own opinions. That's what the beauty of an opinion is. I hope you can comment. Let us know what you think about some of this. Let us know what you thought about some of these interviews. Something that stood out to you. Be sure to comment. We do read them. We skip over the true haters. No, I'm kidding. If you bring a good and respectful comment, well thought out, there's a good chance we'll respond to it, and we'd like to have your valued input. Nick, is there anything we missed in this 1 week's time that people are chanting at us right now through their car speakers or their YouTube screens saying, hey, you forgot to talk about this? There's probably something. Anything?
There's got to be something.
Nothing?
What it is, honestly, I have no idea. I think I can kind of just briefly, note some people that didn't cash at the last event. I think Thomas Gilbert, Ezra Aderhold, AJ Carey, Brody. Average to win it was 1079. Average for last cash in the MPO division was 1003. Congrats to Katrina Allen. We actually didn't really get to say that too much, but congrats to Katrina for winning the FPO division. She averaged 979, which is, I think, 13 points above her rating at the moment. And then FPO's last cash was 920 rated. So shout out to all the FPO players, MPO players making cash this week at the Silver Series event. I'm looking forward to Texas States. And like I said, if someone knows if there is coverage of this event, just shoot me a DM. I'd love to watch it. I'm not really sure.
This is a national tour, right? It's a national tour. So
no. I meant if there's coverage of the course like in previous years.
Oh, I'm like,
no. I know it's all disc golf.
Live disc golf.
The Disc Golf Network.
Yeah. Live disc golf for disc golf all year. It's insane.
Yeah.
Now,
exactly.
I will just say,
spoiler alert. Sorry.
No, listen,
we didn't say that at all today.
Okay, but I'm just gonna say this. I have to say this, and it's not in my show notes, so you guys buckle up. No, we had somebody comment out of the millions of people who browse YouTube. Someone stumbled across and supported Foundation podcasts as well as the Nick and Matt show. And they left a significantly, go find it if you'd like to, guys, on our last stream. I think it was our last stream. I can't recall. It's somewhere. Paragraphs worth of comments. And they ultimately said, it's a bunch of BS that you've done spoilers. You put it in the title of your live stream. Who won the event. You didn't have to do that. You don't respect us, the viewer. Because of that, we don't respect you. And we are not supporting, we're unsubscribing from everything, we'll never watch again, bye. Now, I read that and I think to myself, well, we can't have a conversation with that individual, number one. Number two, talking about live events and sports is our job.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have to put it in the title? No, but we're trying to attract the audience who is interested in that.
Yeah,
there's an audience
purposes. Yeah,
there is an audience that is interested in that. And so I guess we could have said like, we're going to talk to the winner, but like, how long are we going to tiptoe around events? Now, to be fair, they brought a somewhat valid point and they said Memorial Championship was only post-round edited. So our only option was to watch post-round and not live. I'll give them that, but at the same time, I realize there's going to be two groups. There's going to be two groups of people.
It's live sports. So, I mean, look, I don't watch the NBA consistently because I don't have cable and I don't have the network that streams the NBA. So the second that I know the Celtics are playing, usually on Instagram, I follow the Celtics account and it tells me first quarter score, halftime score, third quarter score, and the final score. And that's, my live updates for it. I don't go and watch post-produce or anything like that, which I'm sure I can go on YouTube and look at the highlights and then figure out who wins. But it's live sports. There's going to be spoilers. Like Matt said, it's our job to talk about this. And one of the main things that we've done while we're kind of switching over the transition of the Foundation Podcast Network and this, multiple guest interview style podcast is that we're trying to get on the MPO winner from the previous event. We want to get on the FPO winner of the previous event. We want to get on the storyline. Like Casey White had a great weekend. That's who we want to have on the show. Ricky won the event. That's who we want to have on the show. Yeah, we would have loved to have Kat on. Unfortunately, it didn't work out. But then we got second place Heather Young, and she told us a little bit what was going through her mind. So that's honestly, that's what we're trying to do. Promotional purposes, though. Hey, who are we having on the show? We're having the 2021 Open at Belton winner, Ricky Wysocki. So
yeah, well, tonight I actually didn't do it. And maybe it was a test to see how it comes off, just saying our multiple guests. But here's something that just struck me as kind of funny. And I mean this with all the respect in the world. I do not mean to disrespect anybody. But the individual who made that comment, again, I do not know them. It's almost anonymous, right? Through YouTube. Like, I don't know. But they said they're unsubscribing. And it's been, I think, 4 years they've been watching. This is the first time they've ever had an event spoiled thanks to us. Now, the best part to me is they said they had unsubscribed and they weren't even going to watch the show. Like, as in, they were already on it, but then they're unsubscribing and stopping watching it. So the best part is they're not going to hear this rant. And the people, I don't know what else to say. Like,
Matt, I know what to say, and I'm going to say it. Ready? To everyone watching right now and to everyone listening, we're going to spoil events. I'm sorry. On Monday nights at 7:00 when the Nick and Matt show goes live, you're damn straight that we're going to say who won the tournament.
We respect them too. It's like, kind of like if I know driving by this one signboard, this billboard that always posts to win something. Like if I know, like stay away from that. I do not know what else to say except that there have been times where I wanted to watch like an NFL game after it was played. But you know what?
I get that. Yeah.
But at the same time, if it's spoiled, I do not rant to the person who spoiled it to me. Yeah. I don't do it. I realize it's my fault. It's my fault. Yeah. It's my fault.
I think my best thing to say about that is, look, you got to try really hard not to get anything spoiled. I think in sports now with all the different social medias and everything like that. So for future references to people who are listening to the podcast or watching us live, we are going to talk about the winners. So if you'd like to, wait till Tuesday or Wednesday after all the post-round production comes out. And there's no issue with that whatsoever. The stream gets uploaded live onto YouTube, and then it stays up there. And then we also post it on all the podcast platforms. So
the tides are changing.
Spoilers. Yeah,
the tides are changing too. Some people will say they'll never be able to watch it live, and I get that.
Yep.
And I would just say, you, with all due respect, seriously, I do not disrespect that person. I could play disc golf with them. I could be friends with that person. If they were my friend, I would have a serious conversation if they were very upset about something, about that. And I would say, it's not their fault. Like the people who are spoiling it, you think it's their fault because you read it on their page, but that's what their job is. It'd be kind of like, and this is all seriousness here. You ready for this point? Do we have Paul Macbeth having to hold off until Terry Miller posts his media coverage? Can Paul announce that he won? Can Ricky announce that he's won? They're spoiling it. Like, how far does this go? Do we talk not about A tiers, B tiers, like national tour? Like, oh, it can't, like, what level? Where does it stop? Like, I'm done ranting. Yeah. You've heard it from me. No.
Exactly. I mean, no, I get it. I think that's the toughest thing about spoilers in live sports. But, all we can say is that, look, we're going to spoil it every single Monday night at 7:00. So tune in later on.
All right. We appreciate all of our support, all of our followers, everybody. Again, you can check out. And I had somebody come up to me this week, Nick, and say, guess what I bought? And I said, I don't know, but it sounds pretty cool because you're asking me what you bought.
Yeah.
And he's like, a Nick and Matt shirt. And so that's really cool to have people doing that.
So whoever did that, thank you to that person. We both appreciate that from the bottom of our hearts.
Shout out to Paul Kranz.
Super nice.
That is a local player.
Awesome. Yeah.
And so you can do that. You can go over to foundationdiscgolf.com.
Foundationdiscs.com.
You think I would know, but Nick, and people want to know if we can make our contract public because we were talking about making contracts public. I will say Nick and I received our first checks today. Thank you very much for the support from Foundation Podcast. But it's strictly because of our listeners and our viewers. We totally appreciate it.
I'm officially retiring from the drilling and blasting industry because of this first check. So
too much disclosure, Nick. Too much disclosure.
No, just kidding. I quit my job because I wanted to get better at disc golf.
All right.
No, anyways, to everyone listening and checking us out right now, we really appreciate it. Any support goes a long way. And I had someone come up to me this weekend at a tournament, and he was just like, "Hey, man, my family loves watching the Nick and Matt show," and it was kind of funny because obviously in years past, or in weeks past, people will say like, "Oh, are you the guy that was in a couple like Simon's videos or like in Paul's videos?" And they're like, "Oh, it's Nick Carl. Like, what's it like being in Paul's videos and stuff like that?" And it's nice. Like, it's obviously, I love it when people come up to me and say that. But for someone to come up to me and say, "Hey, man, I love watching the Nick and Matt show. It's really awesome. I love the topics you guys do and everything like that." That to me, that felt awesome. So we really appreciate it. Honestly, it does not go unnoticed.
Yeah, we do. And I love meeting every one of you out there. If you have a bone to pick with us, then do it. Otherwise, I'll enjoy throwing around a disc golf with you and be friends. Yeah, let's all be friends. All right, Nick, go ahead and close out the show.
All right, everybody, please go like, subscribe, comment, turn on the notifications to when we go live. It's every Monday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. And then check us out on your podcast platforms. Leave a review if you like the show. We honestly greatly appreciate it. Tell someone you love them this week, and we will catch you in the next one.
All right, Nick, you're awesome. Peace out.
Appreciate it.
The Nick and Matt Show, a disc golf podcast designed for you, the disc golfer. Find the Nick and Matt Show on your favorite podcast platforms or stream us live exclusively on the Foundation Podcast's YouTube channel.